September 26th, 2021. On that day, a new friend invited me over to his house. What he would show me would change my life forever. I'd always been fascinated with puzzles, so much so that when I was in high school, I learned how to solve a Rubik's Cube without any outside sources, so it should come as no surprise when I found myself fascinated when my friend, Benson, could solve a Rubik's Cube in under 30 seconds. And even more impressive, his brother had solved it once in under 10 seconds. The fastest I had ever solved one using my own method wasn't even under a minute. Of course, my competitive nature got the best of me, and I knew I had to solve it faster than Benson ever had. This began the great Rubik's race. I stayed up for hours that night looking at YouTube videos about Rubik's Cubes and tutorials, and the next day, I began learning a different way to solve the cube, the beginner method. This day was the worst of all. I was taking up to 3 minutes to solve the cube. I had only begun to learn Rubik's notation, and it definitely didn't help that I had to reference the algorithm sheet every solve. However, by the end of the first day, I had gotten my personal best down to 1 minute and 24 seconds. This wasn't good enough. I knew there must be a faster way to solve the cube, and I knew I could learn it. So back to YouTube I went. After scouring through tutorials by numerous cubing YouTubers, I finally found a video on a method known as CFOP. As a whole, CFOP seemed nearly impossible to learn, let alone master, but I had no good alternative. I decided this must be the way. So, I grabbed my cube, sat down in front of the screen, and began to learn. After a couple days, I had still barely learned anything. My key takeaways were to solve the cross on the bottom and to solve the first 2 layers at once. I would save the last layer for later. So I studied hard, practiced a lot, and watched a few more videos until finally I had done it. Sub 1 minute. Although my best time of 53 seconds was respectable, I had much loftier plans. While I was learning the basics of speed cubing, Benson was also busy practicing. While his personal best hadn't changed yet, he was surprised at the speed at which I was improving. Over the next week, my PB was lowered drastically, coming out to an astonishing 34 seconds. Benson was nervous I would soon break his record, and I told him I planned on it. Since his records were on the line, he knew he needed to practice harder than ever. From this moment on, it was a race to sub 20. With cube in hand, we raced to the finish line. After countless attempts, Benson finally beat his PB by 1 second, coming in at 22 seconds. This, of course, was too close for comfort. I began to learn even faster and soon got a PB of 26 seconds, only 4 seconds slower than him. Back and forth it went, getting slightly faster PBs, and at the end of it all, with a new PB of 19.423 seconds, I came out on top. But it didn't stop there. This was where unspoken competition became spoken. The race would continue for a sub 15 solve. Immediately, he went on to get a sub 20 as well. Then I got a sub 19. Then he got a sub 18. Then things slowed down for a while. Eventually, I broke my PB again with a PLL skip and a time of 16.714 seconds. By this time, I had memorized all of the PLL algorithms, but the OLLs had barely been touched. I had a lot of work to do if I wanted to win. Then, after a few more days of trying, 2 months after Benson had initially piqued my interest in cubing, I finally got a time of 15.07. I had missed the timer on the first click, adding an additional half a second to a solve that was most definitely sub 15. Unfortunately, my PBs were based on what the timer read, so it would remain 15.07 for now. Finally, after what seemed like months of back and forth, Benson was finally victorious with a new PB of 14.581. This was devastating. My own misclick led to my demise. I had got a sub 20 first, he had got a sub 15 first. It would all come down to who could get a sub 10 second solve first. The ultimate challenge, the makings of a true cuber. I decided it was time to learn all 57 OLL algorithms to give me as much of an edge on Benson as possible. We shaved off milliseconds here and there, eventually getting PBs under 12 and even 11 seconds. And then came the moment. In a scramble that was almost as lucky as can be, I finished F2L in 6 seconds and ended up getting an 11-second solve. This was heartbreaking because it had felt like a perfect scramble and it hadn't even come close. but I kept persisting, and on January 19th, 115 days after I was introduced to speed cubing, I got my first sub 10. With a time of 9.36. It felt incredible, and after the solve, I was shaking for minutes filled with adrenaline. And that was it. I had won the race, simple as that. Although this would be by no means my all-time best, it would set a standard that would prove difficult to surpass. About a week after, I ended up getting super lucky with another PB of 8.5 seconds, and currently it's been whittled down to 7.12 seconds. At the time of this video, I have a couple dozen sub-10s, my average of 100 is around 14 seconds, and my best average of 5 is under 12 seconds. Unfortunately, Benson has not gotten a sub-10 solve, but he has gotten very close, and hopefully he'll get a sub-10, maybe even a sub-9 soon.